He does. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome. My name is Maheen Khalid, and today I'm here to talk to you about why cultural diversity is a competitive advantage. Has anybody ever heard about Facebook Free Basics? It was a free internet service that Facebook wanted to introduce in India in the year 2015, at the time when only 19% of the total Indian population had access to internet. At the time of the launch, Facebook said that they wanted to connect the billion people of India without internet, giving them better access to free internet services for things like education, health, communication, and jobs. They also quoted a study by Deloitte at the time, which said that if you can connect everybody in the emerging markets, you can create more than 100 million jobs and take a ton of people out of poverty. Hey, does it work? Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I still need to keep this. Anyways, what do you think? How did the service perform? Even though Facebook had pure intentions over here, they obviously wanted to connect the mostly disconnected Indian market and give them a launch pad. They still wanted to collect the user data of these users, and when the time is right, they wanted to monetize this user base. And as a result, this service was quickly called out as internet feudalism and digital colonialism, as it was a threadbare service with only 36 websites and Facebook as the only social media available. It also, it had one weather application, 3 applications for women's health, and Bing as the only social search engine available. Crucially, Facebook decided that only they can decide that which new website can be added onto the platform, and that was clearly not received very well. There was an active campaign against the service, which called out Facebook on its claims on net neutrality and which called out claims on net neutrality and the misinformation that Facebook was spreading regarding the adoption numbers of the service. As a result, the service was shut down in 2016. Let's talk about another big tech company failing to understand their target market, eBay. We all know eBay. It was launched into 1990s, and by the end of 1990s, it had already expanded into 29 more countries. It had a strategy of going into the new markets and purchasing smaller companies over there that were doing similar businesses. And this strategy helped them really well to thrive in European and American markets. And in the year 2000, eBay decided that they're going to expand to Japan now. But very quickly, they failed to gain any traction, and their failure can be attributed to 3 core reasons. Number 1, they offer no seller credibility. Japanese at that time like to purchase things from the people they know. Unlike other services offered in Japan at the time, eBay did not offer any sort of seller reviews or seller score. Japan at the time was mostly a market that operated on cash. For some reason, eBay decided that we are only going to offer credit cards as the payment option. Naturally, that locked out a ton of users out of their system, which preferred not doing monetary transactions online. I don't even know why anybody would do this in a market like Japan. They just decided not to invest enough time into localizing the system. And as a result of these 3 core reasons, eBay had to shut down their operations in Japan in the year 2002. These are just 2 examples, but if you look around, you'll find countless more where tech companies wanted to expand into new markets, but they failed because they did not understand the market right. Now, let me give you another example from my own career where an outsider's perspective made all the difference. Before I moved to the UK, I lived in Sweden for around 7 years, and I worked for a small startup company that provided energy monitoring solutions to its customers to help them optimize their energy consumption. Now, if you have ever been to Sweden, you'd realize that this country is full of engineers. Swedes are taught to think analytically from the very beginning. They calculate long-term cost benefit for literally every single thing. And while money matters to them when it comes to electricity consumption, what matters more is eco-friendliness. Therefore, all the stats in our application were always showed in kilowatt hours, with a heavy emphasis on how that electricity was produced, that is, if it's green or not. Now, this is where my Desi brain struggled a lot. I did not understand this concept of kilowatt hours. If you would tell me that my lamp consumes 2 kilowatt hours, no idea what that means. But if you were to tell me that my lamp consumes 10 pounds worth of energy every month, that's the stat I would understand. But I obviously always pretended that I know what kilowatt hour means. So, I was an engineer. It didn't really matter, right? I was producing sleek-looking charts for the application, and that was going very well. Anyways, a couple of years later, our company expanded into the UK, and we signed a contract over here with a really big energy provider. And we revamped the entire application, had an extremely fancy launch party, and we felt really, really confident about what we had produced. But just a few months into the launch, that company came back to us and said, we have a problem. The customers are finding it really hard how to leverage the application, and it is flooding their customer service call centers. Honestly, that was a shock. We ran workshops after workshops trying to understand what may have gone wrong, but nothing really made sense. And in one of those sessions, when nothing was coming up, I decided I'm going to share with the team that it's just not our UK users, it's me as well, the engineer who has been working on the application for years, who doesn't understand most of the metrics being shown in the application. Let me give you a little bit of background over here. I was, in that moment, the only brown, only woman engineer on the team. I was actually the only non-white person, non-Scandinavian person as well in the team. So in that particular moment, I clearly felt judged. How come an engineer who has been working on the product for years does not understand how this works? Regardless, I pushed my team to think out of the box a little bit over here and think, now what if most of the users in UK are also a lot like Maheen and less like an average Swedish user? After all, we had the cost data available. All we had to do was give users an option to choose if they wanted to see their metrics in kilowatt hours or in pounds. And that small difference made a big impact. Just a few weeks after we shipped that change, the customer service calls dropped by 50%. The app engagement soared. And what it meant for my company was just not that they were able to sign a long-term contract with this energy provider, but also that they were able to sign multiple new deals across the UK. But what it meant for me was, in that moment, I finally realized that I'm just not an engineer. With having a deep understanding of how the product worked and having an exposure different to others in the team, I was bringing in perspective that they could not get otherwise, that the product could not get otherwise. And that's exactly what I see in this room, an opportunity. Most of us work for the companies where we are part of a minority. Most of us work for the companies which have almost zero presence in our home countries. And that gives us a unique opportunity, not just to help our employers expand into new markets, but also to contribute to the growth of the economies of our home countries. We are the missing part of the puzzle. If we learn to speak up, challenge assumptions, and share our insights, we are just not helping our employers. We are shaping the future of the global technology. But what is diversity? When it comes to workplaces, we normally talk about two kinds of diversity. One is inherent diversity, things that you're born with. And the second is acquired diversity, things that you learn on the job or through other experiences, obviously. But the next question comes that can we actually measure the impact of diversity on businesses? Can we actually create a link between diversity and business success? Well, there was a study done by Harvard Business Review where they tried to answer the same questions, and their findings were truly eye-opening. They found that companies which have diversity in their leadership teams have 45% more likely to report year-on-year market growth. They're 70% more likely to enter the new markets. And companies and teams where at least one of the team members shares the same ethnic background as their target audience, they're 152% more likely to understand the local user needs. Whenever we are expanding to the new markets, the biggest problem is understanding local consumer behavior. Most of the tech companies assume that whatever works for one part of the one region of the world is going to be scalable to the other regions as well. But this one-size-fits-all approach normally results in failed launches, poor adoption rates, and missed opportunities. And this is where culturally diverse teams are a truly game changer. They can help navigate their companies, they can help navigate the new markets by sharing first-hand knowledge of local customs, digital habits, and user expectations. Diverse teams ensure that the language design and the features of the product resonate with the local market. And we all know this. Whenever we have multiple perspectives in the room, there's always a very high chance of generating more creative solutions. Now, most of us here, I'm assuming, are probably engineers or belong to engineering tech companies. So let's talk about why engineering teams are crucial for finding the perfect product market fit when emerging into the new markets. The reason is nobody quite understands the product like engineers do. They can understand and highlight infrastructural and cultural limitations very early if they know the market. If they know the local market and they know the technical limitations of the market, they're in the best place to highlight if the product can have any performance or any scalability issues when launching in those markets. And most of all, they are the ones who can actually uncover missing components. There's no sacred formula of making diversity work for every company, but there is a blueprint that companies can add on to based on their requirements and stuff. And the first one, there are three basic components of that blueprint. The first one is build diverse teams locally. You cannot really connect with the market unless you have people who understand that market. You need to prioritize, companies need to make sure that they prioritize having multiple voices from different perspectives, especially in R&D teams, because otherwise they cannot really create the products that resonate with wider audience. And companies need to foster a culture of belonging. If having diversity alone is not enough, if people don't feel heard, their insights cannot make a difference to decision making. Diversity isn't just good PR. It's a competitive advantage when done right. So here's my challenge to you. Next time when you're hiring for a new team, when you're building a new product, or when you're expanding into the new market, ask yourself, are you truly taking care of the end user's needs? Because companies that get this question right aren't just more inclusive, they're more successful as well. And if you're an IC and if you see a lapse in your company's approach towards a new market, for instance, learn to speak up. Back your ideas with the data. Make a case for change. your voice can truly shape the products that target a global audience. And together, let's build products that works for everyone. Thank you.